The fall of Earth. The sky burned crimson over the ruins of New York City. Commander Sarah Chen stood atop the crumbling remains of what was once the Empire State Building, her eyes fixed on the horizon, where massive alien ships loomed like dark sentinels. The acrid smell of smoke and ozone filled her lungs as she watched humanity's last stronghold crumble under the relentless HFY assault. "Commander, we need to go. Now." The urgent voice of her second-in-command, Major Directores, crackled through her comm unit. Sarah clenched her jaw, fighting back the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. This was it, the moment they had dreaded for months. Earth, humanity's cradle, was lost. "Understood," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. "Initiate protocol exodus." As Sarah made her way down the precarious structure, her mind raced through the events of the past year. The XRK had appeared without warning, their massive fleet darkening the skies over every major city on Earth. Their demand was simple, immediate, and unconditional surrender. Humanity's response was equally straightforward, a resounding no. What followed was a war unlike any in human history. Despite humanity's best efforts and most advanced technology, they were hopelessly outmatched. The XRK weaponry cut through Earth's defenses like a hot knife through butter. Cities fell, nations crumbled, and now, after months of desperate resistance, the last bastion of humanity was about to fall. Sarah reached the ground level, where a battered transport waited. Major Torres stood at the hatch, his face grim but determined. "The last of the civilians are loaded, Commander. We're ready to move out." As they boarded the transport, Sarah cast one last look at the city she had sworn to protect. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them away. There would be time for mourning later. Now, she had a job to do. The transport lifted off, joining a ragtag fleet of ships. Everything from military vessels to repurposed cargo haulers that represented humanity's last hope. As they ascended through the atmosphere, the devastation below became heartbreakingly clear. The once great cities of Earth were now nothing more than smoldering ruins. In orbit, Sarah transferred to the UES Defiant, the flagship of what remained of Earth's fleet. On the bridge, she was greeted by Admiral Jao, his weathered face a mask of grim determination. "Status report," Sarah demanded as she took her place at the command station. "The XRK fleet is moving to intercept," Zhao replied, his voice tight. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they're in weapons range." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through possible strategies. "What's the status of the civilian ships?" 70% have successfully jumped to light speed," Torres reported. "The rest are preparing to jump as we speak." "Good," Sarah said. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what came next. "Prepare all ships for combat. We need to buy time for the civilians to escape." The bridge crew sprang into action, relaying orders and preparing for what they all knew might be their final battle. Sarah watched the tactical display, her heart heavy as she saw the overwhelming force arrayed against them. "XRK ships entering weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. Sarah straightened her back, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "All ships, this is Commander Chen. We stand at the twilight of our world, but not of our species. Every second we hold the line is another human life saved, another chance for our people to survive. Fight not just for yourselves, but for every human who has ever lived, and for all those yet to come. Today, we are all that stands between humanity and extinction. Make every shot count. Make them remember this day." As the first salvos of enemy fire streaked across space, Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they were fighting for something that XRK could never understand: the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The battle that followed was brutal and swift. Human ships exploded in silent fireballs, their crews giving their lives to protect the fleeing civilian vessels. The Defiant shuddered under repeated impacts, but Sarah held her ground, calling out orders and coordinating the desperate defense. Last civilian ship has jumped to light speed, Torres reported, a note of hope in his voice. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had succeeded in their primary mission. Now came the hard part. All remaining ships, prepare for emergency jump. We're getting out of here. As the HFY closed in for the kill, the remnants of Earth's fleet vanished into the depths of space, leaving behind a conquered world, but carrying with them the seeds of humanity's future. Hours later, safely hidden in the shadow of a gas giant in an unmarked system, Sarah stood before the assembled captains of the refugee fleet. Their faces were etched with exhaustion and grief, but in their eyes burned a fierce determination. "We've lost our home," Sarah began, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "But we haven't lost hope. As long as we draw breath, as long as a single human heart beats in defiance of tyranny, we are not defeated. We will find a new home. We will rebuild. And one day we will return to reclaim what is ours." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Sarah felt a surge of pride in her people. Battered but unbroken, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the meeting dispersed, Major Torres approached her. "What's our next move, Commander?" Sarah's eyes turned to the star map displayed on the main screen. "We need resources, allies, anything that can give us an edge against the HFY. There are unexplored sectors out there. Who knows what we might find?" Little did Sarah know that among the countless stars lay a discovery that would change not just the fate of humanity, but of the entire galaxy. The fall of Earth was not the end of humanity's story. It was only the beginning. Discovery of ancient technology. 3 months had passed since the fall of Earth. The refugee fleet, now calling itself the Terran Exodus, drifted through the uncharted regions of the galaxy. Resources were dwindling and morale was at an all-time low. Commander Sarah Chen felt the weight of leadership more heavily with each passing day. As she stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Sarah's eyes were fixed on the holographic display of an unremarkable star system. "Any signs of habitable planets, Lieutenant Patel?" The young officer shook her head. "Nothing in the habitable zone, Commander. But there's something odd about the fourth planet. It's giving off unusual energy readings." Sarah's interest peaked. "Define unusual." "It's like nothing we've ever seen before," Patel replied, her voice tinged with excitement. "The energy signature doesn't match any known technology, ours or the XRK's." A spark of hope ignited in Sarah's chest. "Set a course for that planet, and alert Major Torres to prepare a ground team." As the Defiant approached the mysterious world, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something momentous. The planet itself was unremarkable. A barren, rocky world with a thin atmosphere. But the energy readings grew stronger as they neared. Sarah led the ground team herself, along with Major Torres and a squad of their best soldiers and scientists. As their shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere, they saw it. A massive structure, clearly artificial, jutting out from the planet's surface like a metallic mountain. "My God," Torres breathed as they landed near the base of the structure. "What is this place?" Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." The team approached the structure cautiously, weapons at the ready. As they neared, a previously invisible entrance shimmered into view. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward. The door slid open silently. Inside, they found themselves in a vast chamber filled with technology beyond their wildest dreams. Holographic displays flickered to life as they entered, showing star maps and schematics of incredible machines. Dr. Aisha Kapoor, their lead xenotechnologist, approached one of the consoles with reverence. "Commander, this is incredible. The level of technology here is far beyond anything we've ever encountered." As the team explored further, they made a startling discovery. The facility wasn't just a repository of advanced technology, it was a shipyard. And at its heart lay a massive vessel, sleek and powerful, unlike anything they had ever seen. "Can we power it up?" Sarah asked, her mind already racing with possibilities. Dr. Kapoor nodded slowly. I think so. The systems seem to be in a sort of stasis mode. It might take some time to fully understand how everything works, but do it, Sarah ordered, and get every available scientist and engineer down here. We need to learn everything we can about this place and its technology. Over the next few weeks, the Terran Exodus threw themselves into understanding and adapting the ancient technology. The ship, which they named the Phoenix, was a marvel of engineering. Its hull was composed of a material stronger than anything known to human science, its weapons capable of unleashing devastating energy blasts, and its drive system could bend space-time itself. But perhaps most importantly, they discovered a database containing information about the ship's creators, an ancient race known as the Precursors. The Precursors had once ruled the galaxy, but had vanished eons ago, leaving behind outposts like this one as their legacy. As Sarah pored over the translated texts, she felt a mix of awe and trepidation. They created this technology to fight a threat from beyond the galaxy, she explained to her senior staff. A threat that they called the Devourers. The Precursors vanished fighting this enemy, but they left behind their technology in hopes that other races might one day use it to defend the galaxy. Major Torres frowned. Could these Devourers still be out there? Sarah shook her head. The texts aren't clear, but right now we have a more immediate threat to deal with. As the days turned into weeks, the Terran refugees worked tirelessly to integrate the precursor technology into their existing ships. The Phoenix became their new flagship, a symbol of hope and the key to their survival. 1 month after their discovery, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, surveying her fleet. The ships had been retrofitted with precursor tech, their hulls reinforced, their weapons upgraded. For the first time since the fall of Earth, she felt a true sense of hope. Commander, Torres said, approaching her with a determined look in his eyes. The fleet is ready. What are your orders? Sarah turned to face her crew, her voice steady and resolute. For months, we've been running, barely staying ahead of the HFY. But that ends today. It's time we showed them that humanity is not so easily broken. It's time we took the fight to them. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, echoed throughout the ship and across the fleet. Sarah felt a swell of pride in her people. They had endured so much, lost so much, but their spirit remained unbroken. As the fleet prepared to jump to their first target, a HFY outpost on the edge of their territory, Sarah couldn't help but feel that this was more than just a counterattack. It was the beginning of a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. The Phoenix's engines hummed to life, its precursor technology singing in harmony with human determination. Sarah gave the order, and in a flash of light, the fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving behind the barren world that had given them new hope. Little did they know that their actions were about to set in motion events that would change the course of galactic history. The Terran Exodus was no longer running. They were taking the fight to the enemy, armed with the legacy of an ancient civilization and the indomitable spirit of humanity. As they hurtled through hyperspace towards their first battle, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Karke thought they had broken humanity. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Turning the tide. The HFY outpost loomed before them, a sprawling space station bristling with weapons. As the Terran fleet dropped out of hyperspace, an eerie silence fell over the bridge of the Phoenix. This was the moment of truth. All ships, battle formations. Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the tension thrumming through her body. Remember your training. Remember Earth. The Karke responded quickly, their ships pouring out of the station like angry hornets from a disturbed nest. But as they opened fire, their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against the upgraded shields of the human vessels. Return fire, Sarah ordered. The Phoenix's main cannon, powered by precursor technology, released a blinding beam of energy. It cut through the HFY flagship like it was made of paper, the alien vessel exploding in a silent, spectacular fireball. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. For the first time since the war began, they were more than holding their own. They were winning. The battle raged on, but it was clear that HFY were outmatched. Their tactics, so effective against Earth's defenses, were useless against the precursor-enhanced human fleet. Within hours, the outpost was reduced to floating debris, and the remaining HFY ships fled in disarray. As the dust settled, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. "Send the signal," she told Tories. "Let every human colony and hideout know. The tide has turned." News of the victory spread like wildfire through hidden human enclaves across the galaxy. Those who had been in hiding, barely surviving, now dared to hope again. Refugees and resistance fighters flocked to join the Terran fleet, swelling their numbers. Over the next months, Sarah led her growing armada in a series of lightning strikes against HFY holdings. Each victory bolstered their confidence and resources, while sowing fear and confusion among the enemy. But it wasn't just military victories that marked their campaign. Sarah insisted on liberating any enslaved species they encountered in HFY territory. This policy led to an unexpected turning point during an assault on a major HFY mining colony. As human forces stormed the colony's main complex, they discovered not just the expected HFY, but members of a dozen different alien species, all held in brutal slavery. Among them were the Zenla, a race of brilliant engineers who had been forced to work on HFY weapons projects. Klar, the Zenla leader, pledged his people's allegiance to the human cause. "You have freed us from bondage," he told Sarah, his iridescent scales shimmering with emotion. "Now let us help you free the galaxy." The addition of the Zenla and other liberated species brought new skills, perspectives, and technologies to the human fleet. What had started as a desperate fight for survival was rapidly evolving into a multi-species alliance against HFY tyranny. However, their string of victories did not go unnoticed. The HFY Empire, initially dismissive of the human insurgency, now recognized the threat. They began to mass their forces, preparing for a major counteroffensive. Sarah knew they couldn't match the HFY in terms of numbers or resources. Not yet. They needed something more. The answer came from an unexpected source. During a routine scan of a seemingly uninhabited system, they detected faint traces of precursor energy signatures. Following the trail led them to a hidden space station, far more advanced than the outpost where they had found the Phoenix. As Sarah led a team to explore the station, they made a shocking discovery. The station was a vast archive, containing the sum total of precursor knowledge and history, and it was guarded by an AI construct, the last remnant of the long-vanished race. The AI, calling itself the Curator, greeted them with a mixture of surprise and what seemed like relief. "At last," it said, its voice resonating in their minds. "Inheritors have come." Over the next days, the Curator shared with them the true history of the galaxy. The precursors had indeed fought the Devourers, a threat from dark space that consumed entire civilizations. They had won, but at a terrible cost. The few survivors had created this archive and others like it, hoping that one day worthy successors would arise to take up their mantle as guardians of the galaxy. "The HFY found one of our outposts long ago," the Curator explained, "but they proved unworthy, twisting our technology for conquest and oppression. You humans, and your allies, you have shown the potential to be true inheritors." With the Curator's guidance, Sarah and her team delved deeper into precursor technology than ever before. They learned of weapons capable of neutralizing entire fleets without destruction, of shields that could withstand the fury of a supernova, and of faster-than-light communication systems that could coordinate a galaxy-spanning civilization. Armed with this new knowledge and technology, Sarah knew it was time for a bold move. The HFY were gathering their forces for a massive assault. Instead of waiting for the hammer to fall, she decided to take the fight directly to the heart of the HFY Empire. As the human fleet prepared for their most daring operation yet, Sarah addressed her allies. The bridge of the Phoenix was crowded with humans, Genla, and representatives from a dozen other species, all united in purpose. "We stand at a crossroads," Sarah began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. "Not just for humanity, not just for our alliance, but for the entire galaxy. The XRK believe they are destined to rule, that their might gives them the right to enslave and destroy. We're going to show them how wrong they are." She paused, looking into the faces of those gathered. Some human, some alien, all filled with determination. "This won't be easy. We're outnumbered, and we'll be fighting on their home turf. But we have something they don't. We're fighting for freedom, for the right of every sentient being to chart their own course among the stars." A cheer went up from the assembled crowd. Sarah felt a surge of pride and hope. They had come so far from those dark days after the fall of Earth. "To your stations," she commanded. "We jump in 1 hour." As the fleet made final preparations, Sarah stood alone on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. She thought of Earth, of all they had lost, and of the future they were fighting to secure. "We're coming home," she whispered to the cosmos. "And we're bringing freedom with us." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, hurtling towards a confrontation that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The XRK Empire was about to face the full fury of a united galaxy, led by the supposedly broken remnants of humanity. The final battle for the future of all sentient life was about to begin. The Galactic Rebellion. The Terran fleet dropped out of hyperspace on the outskirts of the XRK home system, a dazzling array of ships from various species united under the banner of freedom. The XRK homeworld, XRK Prime, loomed before them, a planet of gleaming cities and massive military installations. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, her face set in grim determination. "All ships, battle formations. Remember the plan. We're not here just to fight. We're here to liberate." The XRK response was swift and brutal. Thousands of ships poured out from orbital platforms and planetary bases, forming a defensive wall around their homeworld. The space between the two fleets lit up with energy weapons and missiles, a dazzling and deadly light show against the backdrop of space. But the Alliance fleet had surprises in store. Ships equipped with precursor technology activated their advanced shields, shrugging off attacks that would have vaporized them months ago. Others fired weapons that didn't destroy XRK ships, but instead disabled them, leaving them floating helplessly in space. As the battle raged in orbit, Sarah coordinated with Kilar and other alien allies to broadcast a message across all frequencies, in every language known in the galaxy. "People of the galaxy, hear us. We are not here to conquer or destroy. We fight to end the tyranny of the XRK Empire. Join us. Together, we can build a free galaxy where all sentient beings live in peace and cooperation." The effect was electric. On XRK Prime, and throughout the Empire, subjugated species who had long suffered under XRK rule began to rise up. Slave revolts erupted in mining colonies. Alien workers in XRK factories sabotaged production lines. Even some XRK, those who had long disagreed with their empire's brutal policies, turned against their leaders. The XRK military found itself fighting a war on two fronts, against the technologically superior Alliance fleet in space, and against a growing insurrection on the ground. Chaos spread through their ranks as communication networks were hacked and command structures crumbled. Sarah watched the battle unfold, coordinating strikes and providing support where needed. But she knew the real test was yet to come. "Major Torres," she called, "prepare a strike team. We're going planet-side." As shuttles streaked through the atmosphere of XRK Prime, Sarah felt a mix of anticipation and dread. This was the moment that would decide everything. Either they would end the war today, or they would fail, dooming the galaxy to endless tyranny. The team landed in the heart of the XRK capital, a sprawling metropolis of towering spires and grand plazas. But the city was in chaos, with battles raging in the streets between XRK loyalists and rebelling slaves. Fighting their way through the confusion, Sarah and her team made their way to the Imperial Palace, a massive structure that dominated the skyline. Inside, they faced fierce resistance from the HFY Emperor's personal guard, but the combination of human determination and precursor technology proved unstoppable. Finally, they breached the throne room. The HFY Emperor, Zexalor the Unyielding, stood waiting for them. He was a massive figure, his exoskeleton gleaming with cybernetic enhancements, eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. "So," Zexalor rumbled, his voice filled with contempt, "the vermin have clawed their way here at last. Do you really think you can overthrow an empire that has stood for millennia?" Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "Your empire is already falling, Zexalor. Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." The Emperor's laughter was like grinding stone. "Surrender? To lesser beings? Never." With blinding speed, he attacked. The battle that followed was fierce and desperate. Zexalor was a formidable opponent, his augmented body a match for their advanced weapons. But Sarah and her team fought with the strength of those who knew their cause was just. In the end, it was not brute force that won the day, but human ingenuity. As Zexalor prepared for a final devastating attack, Dr. Kapoor activated a precursor device they had brought with them. A field of energy enveloped the Emperor, negating his cybernetic enhancements and leaving him suddenly vulnerable. Sarah stood over the fallen tyrant, her weapon trained on him. "It's over, Zexalor. Your reign ends today." As word spread of the Emperor's capture, resistance crumbled across the HFY Empire. Sarah used the Imperial communication systems to broadcast a message of peace and unity to every corner of the galaxy. "Today marks the end of the HFY Empire," she declared, her voice reaching billions of beings across countless worlds. "But it also marks a new beginning. We have a chance to build something unprecedented. A galactic community based on mutual respect and cooperation. The road ahead won't be easy, but if we stand together, there's nothing we cannot achieve." In the days that followed, representatives from hundreds of species congregated on XRK Prime, renamed Unity Prime, to begin the monumental task of building a new galactic order. The Terran Exodus, once a ragtag fleet of refugees, now stood at the center of a new era of interstellar cooperation. As Sarah watched alien diplomats mingling with humans and former slaves taking their first steps as free beings, she felt a profound sense of hope. They had not only saved humanity, but had given the entire galaxy a second chance. But even as celebrations erupted across the stars, Sarah couldn't shake a nagging feeling. The precursors had created their incredible technology to fight an enemy that came from beyond the galaxy. An enemy that might still be out there, waiting. As she gazed up at the star-filled sky, Sarah knew their greatest challenges might still lie ahead. But whatever came, she was certain of one thing. They would face it together as a united galaxy. The fall of Earth had not been the end of humanity's story. It had been the beginning of a new chapter for all sentient life in the galaxy. A new dawn for the galaxy. 5 years had passed since the fall of the HFY Empire. The galaxy was transforming at an unprecedented rate. The newly formed Galactic Confederation, with its capital on Unity Prime, formerly HFY Prime, was a beacon of hope and cooperation for thousands of species. Sarah Chen, now serving as the first human High Counselor on the Galactic Confederation Council, stood at the window of her office, gazing out at the bustling cityscape. The once oppressive architecture of the XRK had been reimagined, blending styles from across the galaxy into a harmonious whole. A gentle chime announced the arrival of Klar, the Genla representative. "High Counselor," he greeted, his iridescent scales shimmering in the sunlight. "The council is assembled. It's time." Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath. Today's meeting could change the course of their fledgling civilization. As they walked to the council chambers, Sarah reflected on the monumental progress they'd made, and the challenges that still lay ahead. The Galactic Confederation had made remarkable strides. Precursor technology, combined with the diverse knowledge of member species, had ushered in an era of unprecedented prosperity. Faster-than-light travel was now commonplace, allowing for rapid colonization of new worlds. Medical advancements had eradicated countless diseases. Energy was clean and abundant. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Integrating so many different species, each with their own cultures and histories, was an ongoing challenge. Former enemies had to learn to work together. Resources, though plentiful, still had to be fairly distributed. And there were always those who sought to disrupt the newfound peace for their own gain. As Sarah entered the council chambers, she was greeted by the sight of representatives from hundreds of species, some humanoid, others wildly alien, but all united in purpose. At the center of the chamber stood the curator, the precursor AI that had become an invaluable advisor to the Confederation. "Esteemed colleagues," Sarah began, her voice carrying across the chamber. "We've come far in these 5 years. We've built something our ancestors could only dream of, but we cannot become complacent. The reason I've called this emergency session is, well, I'll let the curator explain." The AI's holographic form shimmered as it addressed the council. "Thank you, High Counselor. Members of the council, I have detected anomalies at the edge of our galaxy, energy signatures that match those left by the Devourers eons ago." A murmur of concern rippled through the assembly. The Devourers, the threat that had nearly wiped out the Precursors, were no longer just ancient history. They were a potential imminent danger. "We don't know for certain that it's them," Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "But we must be prepared. The Precursors fought alone and nearly perished. We have the advantage of unity, of combined knowledge and strength. We can face this threat together." What followed was an intense debate. Some counselors argued for immediate military buildup. Others advocated for attempting communication with the unknown force. Still others suggested focusing on defensive measures. As the discussion raged, Sarah felt a familiar fire igniting within her. This was why humanity had survived, why they had overthrown the HFY. Not just for themselves, but for moments like this, to stand united against the darkness. "My friends," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the clamor, "we will not repeat the mistakes of the past. We won't let fear drive us apart or push us into rash action. We will face this threat as we have faced every challenge. Together, we'll increase our deep space monitoring. We'll accelerate our research into precursor defensive systems. And yes, we'll prepare our fleets, but we'll also send out envoys. If these are the Devourers, we'll try to communicate, to understand. And if diplomacy fails, we'll be ready to defend our galaxy. All of us, standing as one." The council chamber erupted in applause and shouts of agreement. As the session concluded, Sarah felt a mixture of determination and hope. They had overcome so much already. Whatever came from beyond the galactic rim, they would face it united. Later that evening, Sarah stood on the balcony of her apartment, looking up at the star-filled sky. Major Torres, now Admiral Torres, joined her, his face etched with the same mixture of concern and resolve she felt. "Do you think we're ready?" he asked quietly. Sarah considered for a moment before responding. "I think we're as ready as we can be. We've come so far, Derek. From a scattered group of refugees to the heart of a galactic civilization. Whatever's out there, we'll face it the same way we faced the Exarchai, with courage, ingenuity, and unity." As if in response to her words, a brilliant streak of light crossed the sky, a ship jumping to faster-than-light travel, a symbol of how far they'd come, and a reminder of the vastness of the frontier they now faced. "You know," Sarah said, a small smile playing on her lips, "when we fled Earth, I never imagined we'd end up here. Guardians of the galaxy, preparing to face a threat from beyond the stars. It's like something out of an old science fiction story." Torres chuckled. "Life has a way of outpacing even the wildest fiction. But if anyone can lead us through this, it's you, Sarah." Sarah's expression grew determined. "Not me alone. All of us together. That's always been our strength." As they stood there, watching the stars, Sarah felt a profound sense of purpose. The fall of Earth had not been the end. It had been the catalyst for humanity's greatest adventure. And whatever challenges lay ahead, be they devours or some other cosmic threat, they would face them as a united galaxy. The story of humanity was far from over. In fact, Sarah realized it was just beginning, and it was now irrevocably intertwined with the fate of all sentient life in the galaxy. As the first hints of dawn began to color the sky, Sarah Chen, once a commander of a desperate exodus, now a leader of a galactic civilization, prepared herself for the next great chapter in their cosmic saga. The universe awaited, full of both peril and promise, and humanity, along with their galactic allies, was ready to meet it head-on.